Gosh, hi everybody. It's been a little while. Sorry about that. Finals, final papers, lots of writing. Some unexpected responsibilities, but I'm back now. It's currently 1:30 in the morning where I am. So, sort of doing this at the 11th hour. Or the first hour, I guess. At any rate, it's time to explore Drangleic Castle. We are immediately greeted by these two primal knights. They are slightly stronger than the ones we encountered in the Doors of Pharos. It's not really a meaningful difference. They're still very slow, they hit fairly hard. Everything you'd expect from an elephant in plate armor. You can sort of use the elevation of these stairs to your advantage. A lot of their attacks will just sort of go over your head if you're careful. They're pretty weak to lightning, too. It can be difficult to fight them in such close, cramped quarters on this sort of bridge here, but provided you just kite back, you'll be okay. You might want... Your first instinct might try to get out in the open here, but that's a bad idea because you have to deal with these guys. The crossbow-wielding royal swordsmen are always a pain in the butt, especially when you also have to deal with elephants. The way in seems to be locked, but it is not requesting the symbol of the king, so we might be in luck. The castle's front door introduces a new mechanic that is pretty much only in this area. There is one exception later on, but the giant-looking statues that sort of hover around those urn things can be activated if you put souls into them. Now, naturally, we couldn't just do that with our hands. We have to kill an enemy nearby enough for it to sort of suck in the drop souls that we would normally do ourselves. It's a fairly generous range, but it's also kind of dumb. It might be dumb, but it's also a fairly impressive mechanism. That way lies the way forward, as you might expect. But as you also might expect, there's a couple of goodies to find hiding around on the sides of the castle. Great combustion and a fire seed for all of our pyromancy needs. And honestly, not a lot else. A pretty grim-looking view, honestly. Maybe on a clearer day the view is a little nicer, but I'd probably get a little stir-crazy living up here. There's a couple more royal swordsmen over here, and what I believe to be a sort of infinite spawn gate, because technically, if you were to kill all those royal soldiers outside of the range of the giant statues, then you couldn't progress. So I believe, I'm just saying I believe, I don't know this for sure, that they will keep spawning until the door opens from that little corridor we just looked down. That corridor serves no other purpose, and there's no hidden door there, so that's just my guess. I've never actually experimented with it. I like making progress, you see. Well, that is a ghost.
Who are you? And by whose permission do you stand before me? This castle is the domain of King Drangleic. Is your trespass intentional? His Highness. Where has he gone? You are a guest of our castle. I am the Chancellor, Belaga. Do you seek an audience with my lord, King Vendrick? Unfortunately, His Highness is absent. My lord, the King, has... The Queen has taken him. My lord made magnificent findings on souls, an accomplishment for the ages. He vanquished 4 great ones and built his kingdom upon their souls. Our king has watched over this land since ages long ago. King Vendrick, we must fight back, or the giants will take Drangleic. The king had a dear queen, a woman of unparalleled beauty. Long ago, the queen came to us, alone, from a faraway land. She warned our lord of the looming threat across the seas, of the giants. The king crossed the ocean and defeated the giants with the queen at his side. The king commandeered their power and created the golems. With the golems, the king created this castle to celebrate victory and to show his love, his gratitude to his queen. The queen brought peace to this land and to her king. A peace so deep, it was like the dark. Is this some sort of a dream? Where am I? What has happened to our castle? Who are you? And by whose permission do you stand before me?
I don't know, guy.
Welcome, visitor. Our guests are treated with honor. This is the way of our castle. Tell me if you should require anything.
Chancellor Welliger, though I would presume Welliger, has nothing more to say. He sort of blows his dialogue load pretty early on, but he does have a couple of cool things for sale, as well as a really great emote. The Flamberge is a dexterity scaling greatsword, and the Lucerne, I'm going to pick one up, is a halberd that has the special ability to pierce shields with its strong attack. Most importantly, I think, is the fact that Welliger sells infinite repair powder. It's a bit pricey, but it's basically your only source of the infinite stuff, so...
Be safe on your travels.
The "this one's me" gesture is pretty much great for all occasions. At any rate, that's all Welliger has to say for now, and I considered buying the Great Magic Barrier, but it's pretty expensive, and we also don't have nearly enough faith to use it properly. We'll stick with the vanilla version. Presumably, this is the throne room with which the king and queen, did all of their royal deliberations. It's surprisingly empty, to be honest. There might be something there, but it's impossible to tell for now. Now, that little indentation on the pillar there looks like a great place for a secret door, but no such luck. It's just a quirk of the architecture. Now that we are inside Castle Drangleic proper, we're introduced to a new kind of enemy, the Cyan Knight. They're big, heavy guys, and they use great shields. Tower shields, to be precise. They are not especially difficult to deal with. Their attacks are pretty slow and well telegraphed, and they themselves are not very mobile. As long as you pick the moment to attack correctly, you shouldn't suffer much reprisal. They're also, quote-unquote, easy to parry. What the hell? They're fairly vulnerable to backstabs and parries. At least, so I've been told. Sometimes they don't work very well. But when fancy maneuvers fail you, just stick with what works. Dodge and weave, block his sword, poke him when he's open. I figure since we've got an endless supply now, it wouldn't hurt to use some of that repair powder. I suppose this is the royal broom closet. The door is jammed. Alright, this guy should be easy enough to... Oh. I suppose that's my fault. Wearing heavy armor and all. Alright, there we go. I'm pretty hopeless at parrying, but I can still backstab most of the time. If the game cooperates. Sometimes it doesn't. Fortunately, we were able to sneak up on this guy pretty easily. We don't have quite enough oomph to take him out in one shot, but 2 shots is almost as good. If you have a quick weapon like a spear, you can usually take him out before he has time to recover. Now, the Cyan Knights are more threatening, but don't underestimate the Royal Swordsmen. They still do quite a bit of damage. Quite a bit more than they did back in the Lost Bastille. This royal broom closet has a passageway down to the basement. We're presented with a 3-way split. This way lies the last fancy door that requires the king's symbol. The door ahead leads to a welcome sight, a bonfire. It would absolutely be in your best interest to light this and take a rest. We'll be returning to this bonfire fairly often, so I'll make note of its name, the King's Gate. Now, I switched to the silver black spear here because the upcoming enemies that we need to face are, well, they're not really weak to dark, but they resist everything else pretty handily, so it will be helpful. And, you know, extra piercing damage. The old Leo ring is nothing if not reliable. So, the final way to go is this room. This room can be extremely difficult if you approach it in the wrong way. The goal is to fight these stone soldiers and use the souls that they drop to open the doors. However, there are a couple of complicating factors here. The first is the stone soldiers are surprisingly difficult. They have a lot of poise, they have a lot of heavy resistances, and they attack really quickly. your best bet is probably just a vanilla striking weapon, or the spear's strong attack if you've got the room. They're pretty much invulnerable to fire damage, and they don't take much from lightning damage either. The real complication fighting them is just maneuvering to where they need to be. Their fancy strikes tend to have a lot of follow-through to them, so they'll usually end up in places you don't necessarily want them to be. Fortunately, like I said earlier, the range is pretty generous. Now, unfortunately, what is hiding behind some of the doors can really ruin your day. You might remember these guys also from the Lost Bastille, the Ruin Sentinels. What they're doing in the King's basement, I don't know. However, they're still very tough. And there is a reason that we don't want to fight them out in the open where we can actually see things. The reason being, of course, that if we go out there, we'll simply awake more of those stone soldiers and have an entire army to deal with. Going through this room is incredibly tricky. Now, on the bright side, the Ruin Sentinels drop quite a few souls on death, and if you're very lucky, their unique armor set. I swear I've got like 3 of those greatswords now. But they do have the unfortunate tendency to respawn. Like I said, the stone soldiers are no joke. Their spears are quick enough that they can do a lot of combo damage to you in a hurry, especially if they team up on you. And since they come in pairs, they're probably going to team up on you. If you time it just right, you can actually take them out before they fully awaken. But sometimes they'll block at the last second and complicate matters. Another door, another Ruined Sentinel. The key to fighting these guys safely is to just not overdo it with your offense. Wait until it's safe, and then strike back. Try and stay at their backs, where their cleave won't get you. They're most vulnerable after those two-handed swings they like to do. They won't follow up with another attack for at least a couple seconds. In this particular battle, the camera is definitely probably your worst... definitely probably. The camera is probably your worst enemy. Or maybe not, who knows? I can't make a definitive statement to save my life. The Royal Soldier's Ring +1 is an upgrade to the Royal Soldier's Ring that we got all the way back in No Man's Wharf. It increases equip load by quite a bit. It's sort of obsoleted by the Dragon Ring series, but it's also really necessary if you want to wear the super heavy armor without just not moving. You can also activate these golems with souls, but there's not an especially good reason to do so. They just light up the room a little bit. This is probably a holdover from back when the lighting engine was more of a big deal. Now, the nice thing about this Ruined Sentinel is that we actually have the opportunity to fight him out in the open, because we have pretty much entirely cleared one side of the room of stone soldiers. So if we lure him over there, then we have much more room to fight him. Now, there are also cons to doing this. As you can see, they have a lot more room to swing their weapons, which means that their cleave is a bit more of a concern. they also have a lot more room to hop around. It's sort of annoying that such durable enemies are also so agile. I think they probably could have toned down this room a little bit. It's not hard per se once you know what to do, it takes forever. I used my silver black spear for nothing but this room and it's already almost broken. Don't get into a poke war with these guys, they have better poise. Stone soldiers drop a number of unique things. Some of them are quite valuable if you're lucky. Now, like earlier, because opening one of these doors is necessary for progression, the game will actually never stop spawning the stone soldiers, even if you kill them 15 times. Oh no. How did I wake them up? Alright, this is terrible. This is awful. This is bad. It is time to leave, by any means necessary. I was saying something about stone soldier drops, but it sort of slipped my mind. They'll drop their unique stone spear, as well as titanite slabs. Oh, right, the spawning. I'm sorry. Because of the fact that one of these doors is necessary to progression, the game will never stop spawning these. So no matter how many times you clear them out, there will always be at least one stone soldier by each door, and they will always drop souls, because those souls are necessary to open the doors. So if you are in desperate need of souls, and you have somehow killed everything else in the game, this is the place for you. Given its proximity to a bonfire, it's pretty efficient, honestly. If you are overwhelmed by stone soldiers and ruin sentinels, or any combination thereof, your best bet is to simply retreat back to the bonfire area. They are pretty shy about following you into that archway. If you have a ranged weapon, then you can take them out largely without reprisal. But if you don't, you'll have to go back out at some point. Still, it helps to thin them out a little. Also, I finally used Scraps of Life successfully before. I'm very proud of myself. If you actually know what you're doing and you have decent faith and hex stats, then it's actually a pretty powerful spell. So it's not immolation. It's actually good. We're just a little too weak in terms of faith. The last one. If you want to explore everything, this room drags on like no other. And unfortunately, if you keep doing the same thing long enough, you'll eventually slip up, even if it's something really silly and easy to dodge, like their two-handed overhead swing. Now, mercifully, it's not necessary to fight these guys more than once, even if you want to get everything. There is only one door that actually leads anywhere in this place, and that door is the one opposite of this one, so it's very near the entrance, and you can simply dash through it and ditch any Rune sentinels, and stone soldiers that try to follow you. Well, two of these were empty, and I really have no idea why. Maybe we missed something in one of them, so I'm going to go back and check. Goodness knows that there's plenty of ridiculous illusory walls in this game. Oh, that's like an illusory wall. It's like an illusionary floor, except noisy. Now, our unhappy tumble has now given us a happy surprise. The Faram set is sort of this game's mascot armor, like the Elite Knight set was for the first game. Also, there's conveniently just a bonfire down here in this random-ass cave that nobody is in. Let's go ahead and equip what we just got. It looks pretty cool in my opinion. It's heavy armor, sort of. It's more on the medium side of heavy, but all the pieces offer pretty good protection, good poise. Just all around fairly powerful items for their weight. It's sort of a shame you can only get them so late in the game. Got sort of a Skyrim look going on. That's more our brand. It's also lighter. Alright, time to search for a way out. How did you get here?
We meet again, young undead. You have the look of a true seeker. I am Dark Diver Grandal, seeker of dark, giver of dark. If you seek true dark, I will grant it to you, as much as you desire. Well then, is dark what you wish for?
I like hexes.
There you are. You are now a pilgrim of dark. The dark chasm beckons you. Those drawn to the dark are destined to seek it. Finally, you are here, young undead. Now, open the depths of darkness. Young undead, the dark awaits you.
So this is the final covenant in the game, the Pilgrims of Dark.
The embrace of the dark is gentle. Let it absorb your sorrows forever. The embrace.
Grandal doesn't actually have a lot to say. He does sell some useful things, though. A couple of specialty hexes, human effigies, and some bonfire ascetics. Profound Still is probably the real winner here, but we don't have the stats to use it. However, I will always take some effigies.
May the dark shine your way.
Now, I'm interested in exploring this ominous portal, but not so interested that I'm not going in without some kind of insurance. The Dark Chasm of Old is a unique area that is only accessible to members of the Pilgrims of Dark Covenant. It's honestly not very special in terms of aesthetic, it's just a damp cave. We just came from one of those. We do get this cool black aura. Looks sort of like we're made out of tar. boulder ahead. Okay, probably another boulder trap. Or, oh my goodness. So, hello. Oh god. We'll explore the dark chasm of old another time. It'll probably get its own video. Until then, let's recollect ourselves and always remember to be wary of Boulder.